What's good, everybody? Joe Nice, as always, coming to you live and direct on an April 21, 2021, April 21, 2021, April 21, 2021. You know how I do it. After my main man, Ranch, on the other side. What's good, Ranch? Let's talk about it. What's happening, brother?
Hey, good morning. Good afternoon.
Oh, it's afternoon for me, sir. I'm on the West Coast. I'm on the left. I'm not on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast. You said you got me confused, man. You got me confused. You got me all messed up.
I'm in mountain time. I haven't left the East Coast time zone like a year and a half, so it's been pretty wild. Back in time. But,
Understood, brother. Understood. And you know how
thinking about Prince today.
Oh, brother, you already know what it is. And let me show you all what's cooking right there. Check that out. That's what we're dealing with today. Prince Rogers Nelson. Oh, you already got it right there, man. You already know what it is. Prince, born June 7th, 1958, died on this day 5 years ago. I'm a massive Prince fan, as some of you may already know. I want to show everybody the artwork, the tattoo. Check the Prince symbol on the right arm. Check the bicep. I actually was walking through the woods the other day, and I had a branch slice me up the other day, but don't watch that.
The burpees.
Brother, look, man, I'm getting them in 100 a day, easy, and the flow is getting good. But yeah, man, Prince Rogers Nelson is easily my favorite musician by a whole lot.
Yeah.
And when you can think about everything that happened in his life, and then you think about everything that's happening in Minneapolis right now, a lot of his music that in many instances he wrote 40 plus years ago is so relevant and accurate and timely and appropriate to everything that's happening today.
Yeah, I mean, some of the music, the one that I was kind of like the Baltimore track that, obviously speaks to the movement of Black Lives Matter. I mean, that was 2015. I mean, if he was here with us today, we know he'd be keeping that spirit alive.
Absolutely. And and I said this in one of my posts a couple of years ago, and there's something to be said for serendipity. There's something to be said for timing. There's something to be said for being able to come up with something that you don't expect other people to come up with when it happens. And I'm going to read you something that I wrote a couple of years ago. And my guy Tyler Tattoo, who also did this Prince tattoo. Actually, no, he didn't do the Prince tattoo. He did my Sade tattoo on this arm. We'll show you that a little bit later on. But
all at once.
Yeah. I can't let everybody see all the details all at the same time. You know how that goes, Rich. You know what it is. But I wrote this. I want to read this to everybody because it's going to kind of set the tone for today's conversation. I typed, whatever the case may be. I said that on this day 5 years ago, Prince was taken from us. We should have had, quote, old man Prince, end quote. However, his music told us everything that was going to happen and everything that we should have been listening to. Prince was the future. The murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis sparked outrage and the birth of a revolution. Prince had a band called The Revolution. Most of these protesters are young people. They will become our future generation of leaders in positions of power. Prince called his next group the New Power Generation. He wrote a song called We March. He had an album called Chaos and Disorder. And of course, the next album after Chaos and Disorder was Emancipation. Prince saw everything before we knew anything. Prince told us, dearly beloved, we have gathered here to get through to this bit. I'm sorry, I fucked that up. Dearly beloved. Your finger wag had me messed up, bro. You're out here doing Matumbo and things, man. Damn.
I was getting excited.
Me too.
That's like, that intro is crazy.
I know, that's right. Prince told us, quote, dearly beloved, we have gathered here to get through this thing called life, end quote. Now more than ever, those words ring true. Thank you, Prince. We miss you and we love you forever. And it's interesting how you just said, hey, I was getting a little crazy, because that was, of course, the intro, the spoken word intro to Let's Go Crazy.
It's getting nuts.
That's it. So yeah, I mean, Prince, there are legendary musicians that have spoken about Prince in glowing terms. And these are some legendary musicians. When you listen to them talk about Prince, it's like, wow, Prince must have really been amazing. Like somebody like, for example, Dave Grohl, who was the drummer from Nirvana and the lead singer of the Foo Fighters, if I'm not mistaken. And he eventually was he also if you remember a duo of Kyle Gass and Jack Black, otherwise known as Tenacious D.
Sure.
Dave Grohl was the drummer on those on a lot of those records. Dave Grohl was playing.
No idea. Nice.
Yeah, Dave Grohl was the drummer. So, and Dave Grohl said about Prince, he said, "Look, I'm a drummer by." Actually, Dave Grohl was the drummer, but I think did he play bass at one point? If I'm not mistaken. I think he was just a drummer though.
Yeah, I think mostly drums.
Mostly drums. Okay. He said about Prince, he said, "Look, I'm a drummer by trade, and Prince is a better drummer than me. And Prince isn't known for playing drums. He's not known for playing drums. If you hear Prince play a bass, he's on a level of a James Jamerson, Bernard Edwards, Verdine White.
Not to mention the guitar.
Exactly. Leroy Bonner, otherwise known as Sugarfoot from the Ohio Players, Victor Wooten, Marcus Miller, Louis Johnson from the Brothers Johnson, who played bass on all of those Michael Jackson records, most notably Off the Wall and Thriller. Prince could play bass like them. But then you think about him on guitar, he's in that conversation with obviously a Jimi Hendrix, an Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads, Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin. He gets a seat at that table.
Yeah.
So, and then when you think about him vocally, come on, he could sing all day long. So Prince is one of these musicians that there was nothing like him before, and there was nothing that's ever going to be like him after he passed away on this day 5 years ago.
Don't try it.
Yeah, I mean, just don't try it at home. Reg, question for you. Where were you when you heard the news? And what were you doing?
Let me think. You know, 5 years ago, I had at that point in my life, I had heard all the main kind of pop Prince tracks. I had had him in my life, whether it was on the radio or just out and about in public, whatever, TV. It really wasn't my friend put me on to Purple Rain at one point. So I ended up getting through that maybe 6-7 years ago. And I was like, how did I miss this thing? It kind of really got me interested, but I didn't really crack open Prince for myself until 5 years ago.
Yeah,
it was. And I think that probably, I wrote that today on my feed, that I think 5 years in these past 5 years, his music has skyrocketed.
I agree.
Maybe it was just that day, and all of us who went and revisited Prince or checked him out for the first time, whatever it was, something about his music and his voice and his singularity post his death.
Yes.
It's like, it really, I mean, he was already kind of out of this world, as he says. The post I made today is they shared it on his Instagram, but it's like, I like to say I live in the world, but I'm not of it.
So true.
I like that. And that was what he was like when he was here. So, I mean, he's probably still here, it's like transcendent time and space.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah. I it's kind of like when Michael Jackson died. I was probably on the go. I was probably driving from one place to the next, just doing my life as usual. And then bam, crazy news.
Yep. I remember when I remember where I was when I heard about Michael Jackson. I was on tour in Australia. I was at a hotel room in Perth, Western Australia. It was June 25th, 2009, if I'm not mistaken. And I was just like, oh, come on. There's no way. There's no way. But where was I when I heard the news? I was in Baltimore. I had a class. I think it was either a Tuesday or a Wednesday afternoon, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember. It might have been a Wednesday. And it was either Tuesday or Wednesday. It was midweek. And I remember, I think I had just come back from my internship on the west side of Baltimore at Bon Secours Community Works. And out to everybody that's still there doing amazing work on the west side of Baltimore. But I was over there, and I had to, I was in the throes of graduate school at that point. I'm probably taking notes, typing up a paper or something. Actually, I know it was let me think, 2016. I graduated 2017. It was for one of the classes I was taking was public program evaluation, which was still to this day one of the 2 or 3 toughest classes I had to take in out of both of my master's degrees programs in both schools.
Sounds dope.
And the guy who taught the class was an absolute genius, and the class wasn't easy, but it was incredibly useful. So, as many of you all know, I'm divorced. I've been divorced a little more, 6 years now, 2015. So yeah, this December will be 6 years. My ex-wife doesn't call me for anything unless it involves our daughter. Unless it involves Parker, she's not calling me. And quite honestly, I'm not calling her. I saw my phone just explode. Just bzz, bzz, bzz. Phone's ringing.
Turn purple.
Everything. And my phone literally was going crazy. And my mom called me, Joseph. I was like, yeah, Mom, what's going on? Joseph, yeah, Prince died now. I'm all like, what? Prince is dead? Come on, no way. Turn off, look at my phone. I'm seeing my entire Twitter feed, just nothing but Prince. So ex-wife calls me and she's like, Joe. I'm like, yeah, I heard. And part of the reason why my ex-wife and we got interested in each other because she spent time in Minneapolis. She's originally from Madison, Wisconsin, but then spent 2 years of college at the University of Minnesota, which is in downtown Minneapolis. If you know Minneapolis, you know U of M. It's right there. The I-35 bridge that actually, if you remember that bridge that collapsed a few years back, that goes over the Mississippi. On one side is the outer fringes of the University of Minnesota. So it's downtown Minneapolis, essentially. She went to school there and she was always a big Prince fan. And I was like, oh, I'm a big Prince fan. Next thing you know, we ended up falling in love and getting married. So Prince was a big deal for us. It just was. And she also liked the fact that I had a Prince tattoo back then, which she, thought was cool, I suppose. So it was a big deal for us. And we talked for maybe a good 10 or 15 minutes, which was one of the longer conversations we've had since our divorce. And I just remember being like, oh, there's no way this is actually happening. How the hell did this happen? Prince is dead? Come on now. Really? There's no way. This isn't true. So then I had people calling me up calling me and messaging me from literally around the world. Around the world, people were messaging me, calling me.
That's because you're spinning Prince records between dub plates.
Oh God, man!
I mean, good.
It's madness, right? And I had an ex-girlfriend who messaged me, who I haven't spoken to in years. Found me on Facebook and messaged me. I had another friend of mine from high school who was, I think, married now with a couple of kids. And she was like, hey, I found you on Facebook. I heard that Prince died and you were the first person I thought of. So I had people from all over the place messaging me about Prince's death. And at that point, I just decided to have a bunch of posts on Instagram and I put the word out on Facebook. I'm like, look, y'all know, a lot of you all in Baltimore know where I live. If y'all want to come over, I'll make some hummus. I got some chips in the refrigerator, and I say that because it's true. It's always a really good idea to put your chips in the refrigerator as opposed to a cabinet.
Well,
yeah,
didn't expect to get that tip today, but
yeah. You put chips in a refrigerator because the reason chips get stale is because air gets in the bag. A refrigerator doesn't have circulating air because that's what a refrigerator does. It keeps the cold air circulating, but it doesn't let other air, like moist air, get in.
I put my bread in the fridge. Is that the same?
You see why you do it? There you go. There you go. You learn something. Hey, brother, I'm here for you.
What was the day? So you remember when it happened, but like what did your day change dramatically? Did you take the day off? I mean, that's the kind
of at that point, I just I couldn't do any more schoolwork at that point. I just said, you know what, learning about pre-test and post-test and evaluation, or the different types of biases, whether it's a self-selection bias or a historical bias. I'm not. I'll deal with this.
I'm gonna put on red beret.
I'm a raspberry beret.
Raspberry beret.
Yeah,
I was thinking red Corvette. I was like, what am I keeping track of?
I know. It's a lot to keep track of. But I just said, you know what?
Red beret sounds so weak compared to a raspberry
beret. Yeah, and when you think about the whole idea of a raspberry beret, it's like, why would you have a beret made out of raspberries? But then when you think about the hook, raspberry beret, the kind you find in a secondhand store, it's like, well, yeah, you know what? You do see it. I mean, nobody in their right mind would actually buy a raspberry colored beret. Nobody would actually do that. So you would actually, And you would actually find it in a secondhand store because nobody actually wants that.
Not many people would refer to a raspberry colored beret as a raspberry beret.
That's the other thing.
In and of itself poetic. And that's what really got the juices flowing. You know, there was a lot of attraction coming Prince's way. And it was things like that, just simple things, just, you know, that I think that touched the hearts of a lot of people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's so brilliant you said that, Ranch, because I would have never thought about that, to use an actual color of the actual fruit to describe the color of a garment, but it makes so much sense now that we're thinking about it. Raspberry Beret was on the Around the World in a Day album, so that was 1985. So 36 years later, we're now having this conversation like, oh yeah, you know what? Prince was really smart to use a fruit as that, because you wouldn't think, oh, I have a tangerine dream. It's like, oh, or I have a tangerine colored pair of shoes.
I think I've written tangerine sky before, something like that. But you know, it works.
It works.
Marmalade skies.
Yeah, marmalades. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
I'm glad we're touching on this because you got the singing, you got the guitar, you got the whatever instrument you want, insane production, like you know, Paisley Park, etc., which we should touch on. But like the lyricism, like the guy cranked out poems that were songs and lyrics and just words that he just like unmatched. I mean, like Bob Dylan, there's only a few human beings that I think were just like, they're just waking up in the morning, knocking out a whole song in like 20 minutes, you know, that he was just that prolific. It was just happening.
Yeah. And
I heard he has tons of songs still that we probably still haven't heard.
Well, yeah, I have a box in my closet of just Prince CDs, and a lot of them are bootleg material from 30, 40 years ago that I just, you know, I just kept because I've kept them. But I'm glad you mentioned the lyrics, because when you think about his lyrics, in my opinion, Prince wrote the greatest love song of all time, Adore, off of the Sign of the Times album. He said, "Until the end of time, I'll be there for you. You are my heart and mind. I truly adore you. If God one day struck me blind, your beauty I'd still see. Love's too weak to define just what you mean to me."
Man,
Shakespeare on his best day couldn't write that. Seriously, Shakespeare on his best day couldn't come up with that. And Prince just is like, let me just write this and eat some Captain Crunch afterwards.
Yeah, and I mean, it wasn't just, he could do that. He could go romantic all the way, like heartfelt, but then he could also like, and he did also often get like kind of naughty. You know, the guy was like, he was putting all kinds of words and thoughts into people's minds early on that like were a little bit taboo. You know, he was taboo.
He said, "Get off 23 positions in a one-night stand." He said that. Off of my favorite Prince album, Dirty Mind, which came out 41 years ago in 1980. He had a song on the album called Head.
Yeah, there's like Jack Me Off. I mean, there's a lot of
Jack You Off, which was off the Controversy album, which came out the following year.
Controversy, that song is lit.
Oh my goodness. When he said, "I just can't believe all the things people say. Controversy. Am I black or white? Am I straight or gay? Controversy. Do I believe in God? Do I believe in me? Controversy."
I'm glad we spoke on that song.
Oh man.
In those words. I mean, it sums up the man right there.
I mean, let's not forget on that one song off the Dirty Mind, that song Head, he has a female voice singing, "I'm just a virgin and I'm on my way to be wed." The following line, that same female voice says, "You're such a hunk, so full of spunk, I'll give you head." That's in the song. And that's 1980. And people are just like, oh yeah.
The FCC wasn't paying attention that day.
People weren't paying attention. No. No. You know, there's something about you, babe, that happens every time. Whenever I'm around you, babe, I get a dirty mind. It doesn't matter where we are. Doesn't matter who's around. I just want to lay you down. That was 1980. Prince was singing this stuff. And people were like, yo, who's this guy who's 5'3" with the assless pants and the heels?
I was just listening to a track on a Prince track, and it went right into James Brown as like the similar sound. So I think that there's definitely a correlation. He's who comes to mind in that context.
Oh, I agree. I mean, you know, one of my favorite Prince songs, and I don't remember every single lyric to it. It was off the, oh gosh, I think it was off the Diamonds and Pearls album. It's a song called Money Don't Matter Tonight. And I think Diamonds and Pearls was 19, I want to say it was 91.
Yeah, I could tell you.
So I think it might have been 30 years ago.
91. You're
91.
right.
Yeah, so it's 30 years ago. Yeah. There's some lyrics in this song that I want to make sure I read to everybody so everybody understands what in fact Prince was talking about. There's a verse in this song that's entirely appropriate where he says, "Hey, now maybe we can find a good reason to send a child off to war. So what if we're controlling all the oil? Is it worth a child dying for? If long life is what we all live for, then long life will come to pass. Anything is better than the picture of a child in the cloud of gas, and you think you've got it bad." Then the hook, "Money don't matter tonight." Everybody knows that. It sure didn't matter yesterday. Just when you think you've got more than enough, that's when it all up and it flies away. That's when you find out that you're better off making sure your soul's all right. Money didn't matter yesterday, and it sure didn't matter tonight. Prince was miles ahead of everybody.
That's some philosophy right there. I mean, the guy was
gosh.
He is a serious philosopher, you know.
Oh, man. You know, but then you go back to the sexual stuff. I guess I should have known by the way you parked your car sideways that it wouldn't last. Because you're the kind of person that believes in making out once, love him, and leave him fast. You know, I guess
he seemed to speak to any person that would be at his show, any person that would go to a club that was out, like that, each of them had he gave a voice to every one of them.
Everybody,
one way or the other.
Everybody. I guess it should have known. Oh gosh, he just had a way of, like you said, reaching everybody without insulting everybody's intelligence in the process.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that got a big reach these days that got a lot of influence, and they get there by stepping on toes and pushing people around, being like hurtful sometimes. And it was not his vibe by any means.
No, it wasn't. What
was his spiritual? Like throughout his life, did it kind of like alter? Do you know his spirituality?
I think he was a Jehovah's Witness, if I'm not mistaken. And then he kind of just, from what I understand, just abandoned the institution of religion per se and just became devoted more to spirituality. And I can sort of understand that and relate to that, because as I've gotten older, I've certainly gotten away from the institution of religion, and sure, I'm certainly understanding and accepting of whatever a higher power is, and whatever that higher power goes by, whatever name you want to call it. But I'm certainly becoming more distant from the institution of an organized religion. I'm definitely distancing myself and moving away from that, which...
So is the society, so is the world, and in a lot of ways. I mean...
Absolutely.
And it's just the facts are there, the numbers are there. And when we think about, if we were to, bring this back to the relevancy of the times and the inequality...
Or the sign of the times.
The sign of the times. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, sir.
If we bring it back to that, then I think we'll find that we have to find common ground. We're not ever going to find common ground officially with another religious institution if we're in a religious institution. They just are inherently not going to be on this, like, from that same place. But the individual's spirituality, whether they're a part of an institutionalized religion or not, that is something that we all can find universally, I think. And so I'm right there with you. And sorry, I mean, I feel like I cut you off.
No. Yeah, he just had a way of figuring out what you needed before you even knew you wanted it. And I'm going to make sure I say that again. He had a way of figuring out what you needed before you knew you wanted it. And wants and needs are completely different, which kind of speaks to how in tune he was with himself so he could be in tune with other people. And that is a rare quality in humanity, let alone from a globally popular and influential musician. To figure out, it's one thing to have somebody speak to you in such a way, whether it's through dance or art or poetry or music or whatever artistic medium that artist chooses to utilize. It's another thing to do it over and over and over again with a wide variety of songs that are multi-topical and multi-genre. That's I don't know if we've ever, there's only a handful of musicians I can think of that got to that point.
Right.
And Marvin Gaye certainly sung about love and relationships and obviously social issues. I mean, let's listen to the entire What's Going On album. Stevie Wonder obviously did the same. Look at the Hotter Than July album. Look at the Songs in the Key of Life album. Listen to what he was singing about on the Intervisions album, which came out before Songs in the Key of Life Songs in the Key of Life is 1976. So that album's 45 years old this year. But Prince went from, it's almost a musical evolution that he had. When he was a young boy, he was like, Head, Sister, Party Up, Got a Broken Heart Again. And then he talked about everything from in what he figured it out. It's like, hey, we don't have much time left. 2000 party over, oops, out of time.
That was it.
I'm gonna party like it's 1999. Okay.
I mean, the guy owns the year. I mean, you don't think of the year 1999 and not think of Prince. And you
don't think of New Year's, a New Year's celebration when you're not playing.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember it was definitely special to hear that song on the 1999. Would it have been the 1999 into 2000 night, or would it have been the 98 into the 99 night?
No, it would have been December 31, 1999, because it was 2000 party, oops, out of time. Tonight I'm going to party like it's 1999.
Yeah.
So essentially, it was essentially the start of this millennium.
Right. Exactly. And
yeah,
dude is the kind of that's who I think of him one way or the other when I think of the start of the new millennium, and and I think of that often. I mean, this is a new century. It's going great, also going shit. What can you expect? But that song, I was in Dallas, looking up at the fireworks and downtown with my parents, and I was not party ready at that point. I think I was I don't know how old I was, 11 or something. I don't know, pretty young. But I do remember that, and I also loved the movie Batman, and that soundtrack was crazy.
An underrated soundtrack, by the way. Oh my gosh, that soundtrack! Are you kidding? Underrated soundtrack. People sleep on it.
People sleep on the movie too. Yeah, no, I mean. The what is it? Is it Party Man's the one where he's in the streets? He's just like, man.
Party man.
Surprised they didn't have
a party like nobody can. Oh my gosh, ridiculous!
I'm surprised he didn't have a cameo. Did he do cameos?
Not really, other than the movie Fargo. Which I'm trying to remember. I
That's
think
so
he was in
weird.
that one. Yeah, but Party Man, The Arms of Orion was on that song. Bat Dance.
Scandalous. Yeah. Steven says the future. Damn. So he knows.
Yes. And out to Steven. He's Minneapolis also. Steven knows what it is. Steve knows what it is. Yo, Steve, you want to jump on, man? Let me know, brother. We got time for you. We'll make space. You know how it is.
What would man, so many things to talk about. But what would the last 5 years, not even the last 5 years, rather, more like the last year have been like in Minneapolis with Prince? Or what would Minneapolis have been like to Prince? I don't know if we can answer that, but it's just like, I don't think of another, he's like the Minneapolis human like that I know of.
You know what, Ranch? I don't know if we're qualified to answer that question. We're certainly qualified to ask it.
He would have wrote something.
Huh?
He would have wrote something like he did for Freddie Gray.
I think he would have. But I don't know if we're qualified to even answer that question because we're not there. We're not there. We're not in that space. Yeah, I don't know if we can answer that question simply because we're not there. But what I would like to think would have happened was Prince would have been active. Prince would have been standing up and speaking out. I mean, hell, Prince on the Emancipation album, Prince had a song called "We March,"
right?
And that song should be played up and down Hennepin Avenue, anywhere in Minneapolis, St. Paul area right now, because it's an anthem for what we've seen over the past 24 hours with the Derek Chauvin conviction on 2 counts of murder and a count of manslaughter. Prince would have been, I'm not saying Prince would have been in the streets every time, but Prince would have been present.
Right.
He would have been out there. With a megaphone saying something to somebody.
Yeah, he would have seen the significance for himself in his own heart, but I think also in the significance of being there. I'd like to think he understood or at least respected his influence. And sometimes I wonder with celebrities and big artists and stuff like that, it tends to get lost as they've been in the spotlight for a very long time, or they've already had the hits. True. I was just thinking about that a few days ago. They tend to become rich, very rich. And then they tend to live and eat and work and drive and do things in those circles when they become such an icon and like a phenom. And that changes a lot of them. And they tend to get a little tone deaf.
Yeah, they do. They do.
But that wasn't his vibe.
No, that wasn't him. And and I think he was keenly aware, self-aware of who he was in relationship to everybody else. That's a perfect example of why I think he wrote the song "Thieves in the Temple," where he said, "Love comes quick, love comes in a hurry. There are thieves in the temple tonight," meaning that he built this temple of his music, Paisley Park, and this amazing level of success. That temple, that place where people, in the most literal of senses, worshipped him and his music. Yet there were people that were trying to take away from his success, that were trying to take away from his peace, that were trying to take away from what he had built. Thus, thieves in the temple. So he was aware of that, which probably led to him dropping the name and just going with that unpronounceable symbol, because he knew that some of the thieves that were in his temple were Warner Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
So
how long was that going on?
For several years. They
must. Warner Brothers is Batman too. I wonder if he was involved with them that early on.
Oh, he was involved with Warner Brothers, I think, from the beginning, from the first album, which was the For You album, which came out in 1978. He was involved with Warner Brothers then. At my storage unit in Winston-Salem, I've got a bunch of albums on vinyl, a bunch of Prince albums, and a lot of them were all Warner Brothers recordings. A lot of them were. So, yeah, but Prince. Yeah, we're going to remember. I'm going to continue to jam out to Prince today. I mean, I usually listen to Prince at least once a week just to kind of recalibrate myself. You know what I mean? Especially nowadays, especially with the George Floyd trial. Not even the George Floyd trial, but the murder of George Floyd and the Derek Chauvin trial. And let's not forget, there were 3 other officers involved in George Floyd's murder, and they need to be arrested immediately, and they need to be charged. And they need to be charged with accessory to all of the crimes that Derek Chauvin committed.
Yeah, if they're going to hit him with that, and those guys were there doing what they didn't do, the way they acted, the way they didn't act, the way they looked, the way they didn't look. If that was any other individual that had been convicted of those crimes, and he had buddies that were there,
yep.
That we know how that would go down for anyone else. Really, that's what we're at, is like, we just need, I feel like it's pretty simple. Like the police, they can't have, like, I guess it's the qualified immunity, but there just shouldn't be like a different set of rules. I think if we just didn't give them a different set of rules, then that would be cool. Is it that simple?
You know what? It's my uncle told me this years ago. He said, Joe, it's simple, but it's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. It's simple to say that, sure. Yeah, it would be nice to have that, but it's not easy. You would think it would be easy to implement those types of rules and regulations for police officers, but for some inexplicable reason, due to legislation, the police unions, etc., it's not exactly easy to do these things. But J. Alexander Kung and Thomas Lane were the 2 officers that held down George Floyd's legs, and the other guy is Tu Tao. I think he is of Hmong descent. He was the guy that was standing back, making sure that nobody interfered, while the other 2 officers held George Floyd's legs down, and Derek Chauvin knelt on George Floyd's neck. The other 2 officers that were holding George Floyd's legs down, they deserve to have the same charges as Derek Chauvin. The other guy, Tu Tao, he didn't kneel on anybody's neck, but he's got to face some heat also. I want all 4. Justice was not served yesterday. At least I don't think it was. I think it was more a matter of accountability was served. Justice would have meant that, in a bigger perspective, justice would have been that George Floyd would have never had to use a counterfeit $20 bill in the first place. Because so much of justice, and the type of restorative justice or legislative justice, it's really all rooted in economics. And I've always said, for as long as you and I have been in dialogue, that racism is a function of economics. Racism is a function of economics.
That, yeah, that's definitely.
It's a theme that I consistently repeat. And if in fact George Floyd lived in a country or lived in a community where he had a stable job, or he had health care that he didn't have to mortgage his future to pay for, and if he had some sort of universal basic income or a livable wage from his job with paid time off, he would not need to be passing a counterfeit $20 bill in the first place. So there's
it's easy to heighten the justice of crime, but there's
right. I mean, there's always there's obviously there's the macro, the micro, the bird's eye, and then there's the nonlinear approaches to looking at all of this. And of course, you know, the micro perspective would be to say, yep, justice was served. No, this is much bigger than just Derek Chauvin going to jail. And what I keep seeing on various news platforms and I keep seeing on social media platforms is, hey, we won. And I need to take a step back from saying that we won, because in order for someone to win, by default, someone must lose. And that would, in my opinion, trivialize this, to borrow a phrase from Prince, this thing we call life. Life is not a game. This is life. You only get this is it. We're not coming back again. This is it. This is not a game. We're not supposed to be taking chances with our lives. Our lives are not meant to be lived in a way where we win, and by default, because we win, somebody else loses. Because then that creates a competitive imbalance with others in our communities, which is exactly what we should not be doing in the first place. It's about collaboration, not competition. So the fact that it's people are saying we won, I mean, I'm squeamish about that also. This should not be a situation that is construed or understood to be a celebration or a victory. It's an acknowledgement of a judicial responsibility, and we continue to move forward.
I think that I do think about that, and I think I even felt like a tinge of we won myself, in that, you know, the nature of the like widespread injustice and just oppression, corruption, the just travesty that continues to like follow us in this country and across the world. If you see that and you know that well, and you see other people and they see that and they know that well, and you start to feel like you know in your heart you need that to change.
Sure.
Those of us that know that we need that to change, we feel like we're on a team. We feel like we see others that want to do it, like me and you, and like we just know we're going after something. And we use the word fight a lot because it's hard. There's a lot of forces that want to keep us down and not let us get that change. So we kind of got to scrap, and we got to show up, and we got to fight. And when we use the word fight and we think that we're fighting for good, even against evil, it in and of itself starts to breed this, like, we're a team and there's something out there that we got to beat. And that is absolutely the story of this past year in this protest movement and the Black Lives Matter. And I'm talking for most everybody, but definitely like kind of just the lay person, like the person that's just feeling something right now, and they want to know how to act or participate or to be an ally, whatever it is.
Right.
So many of them are making it like, well, there's this side, there's the Trumpers, you know, or whatever it is, and then there's this side. So I see what you're saying, and the pitfalls are, and I think it just is like it's like that too. It's the next level of work. It's like to be able to recognize that, like, you can be active and politically, and you can, you know, do this work for change while not wishing that somebody loses. That's not easy to do. That's a hell of a statement, Richard, and thank you for saying that. But and I agree with you. There has to be some sort of balance between making sure everybody gets what they need without infringing upon someone else's rights to get what you need. And that is one of the grand challenges of America. It's how does everybody get what they need without infringing upon someone else's rights? It shouldn't be that difficult, but for some inexplicable reason, that is difficult. It is a challenge. It is a thing, and it shouldn't be. Someone was speaking with me a few days ago about, I guess it was the concept of the melting pot of this nation,
right?
And how it got here at all, and who are Americans and where do they come from? And there's just this kind of like that the rest of the world, more or less, like almost every other piece of land that is a nation state in this world has had its people on that land forever since there were humans, you know, and this is just that like grandiose big plot of land that got taken over by other people, and then other different people got brought here, and then a bunch of people fled here, and it just through our history has become this place that like we don't have. It's not as easy for an American to think that just any other random American that you pull out that they are us. Whereas like if we were in China, we were, you know, our family grew up in China, and you know we would be Chinese with the Chinese people, you know, or the Indian people or the British people.
Of course.
But this is a really interesting, amazing, beautiful, and challenging place for that reason.
Yeah, it is. And it's a place that unfortunately has built itself on subjugating groups of people to genocide, servitude, and brutalization. And it's wrong. And the whole melting pot concept, I've never really liked that phraseology where it's like, hey, we're a melting pot. The idea is not to sanitize or homogenize different groups of people into some sort of forced assimilation, which is ultimately what a melting pot actually is.
More like a bouquet.
A bouquet is a great example. I was going to try to think of something more along the lines of, instead of a melting pot, I was going to think more along the lines of a stew or a gumbo, right? Where you have all of these different ingredients in a gumbo, and you can clearly identify each of those ingredients. But a gumbo would not be a gumbo if you did not have all of those individual ingredients in the same pot. Do you see what I'm saying? You need potatoes in a gumbo. You need different types of vegetables in a gumbo. You need crawfish or shrimp in a gumbo, depending on what you're making it out of. You need salt and pepper and olive oil, etc. You need all of that together. And when you cook all of that, those pieces don't get melted into this cold gruel of a pot that you can't see what it is and distinguish one from the other. Because when you get to that sort of ideology of having a melting pot, you end up there's a tendency with a melting pot, you end up with the stronger flavors dominating the less strong flavors, or the stronger ingredients dominating and taking over the less strong ingredients. It's kind of like putting a banana in a smoothie. Once you put a banana in a smoothie, everything kind of tastes like a banana.
Gotta do it. You need that banana.
You see, and therein lies the issue. I just want to make sure that people understand that the melting pot analogy, it's the sort of sanitized discourse that we consistently see in a lot of people that want to get quote unquote woke, that don't really understand what being an ally is actually all about. And to kind of bring it back to Prince, it's kind of the whole philosophy where he said, I just can't believe all of the things people say. There are plenty of times where I can't believe some of the things that people say for the sake of people saying what they feel like saying. It's crazy. It's crazy. There you are. I wonder where you went. Like, damn, man just vanished for a second. What happened? You okay?
Yeah, I was at like a low battery on my laptop. You know, I didn't want to get cut off completely.
We can't have that. Brother, can't have that happening.
Yeah, I had a couple lines. I mean, you mentioned the "We March" song by him.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
And I like the lines. Now's the time to find a rhyme that's got a reason and frees the mind from
absolutely, Reg. Yes,
from angry thoughts, the racist kind. If we all want to change, then come on, get in
line. Next time we march.
Kind of sounds. We need that on a shirt.
I
hear the shirts are coming.
bro, you already know they're coming. We're gonna launch. We're launching the shirts sometime this week. That's happening. We're making maneuvers. We're making the list and checking it twice, and we're gonna
I
make
got t-shirt ideas.
Oh well, I know a lot of people got ideas now. A lot of people have ideas, but we got some like, this is just phase one of the launch. Phase one, we got the 4-fight shirt, multiple colors. We've got the Citizen versus the City. We've got the Power of One. We've got the skull shirt. That's the picture of my head on the shirt. We call that the skull shirt because it's literally my skull on a shirt. So skull shirt. We got the JNN. Oh, the JNN's in full effect. Yes, absolutely. And we also got a limited edition shirt we're coming out with. We're finalizing this and tightening up the design as we speak. I'm sure you're familiar with the United Nations languages.
No.
Okay. The United Nations conducts their business, commerce, dialogue in 6 languages. The United Nations languages are Arabic, Mandarin Chinese, Spanish, English, French, and Russian. Those are the 6 languages. And so if you go to any United Nations website, you can just click on the language tool in the upper right-hand corner typically, and it will automatically localize the text from whatever your source language is to the target language that you want. So with those 6 languages, you can communicate with a whole lot of people around the world in those 6 languages, a pile of people around the world. Mandarin Chinese, English, French, Spanish, Russian, Arabic. So needless to say, I know a bunch of people around the world who speaks those languages. So I decided to contact them and figure out how to translate those 4 words, humanity, freedom, equality, and survival, into those languages.
Sure.
And what we're going to do is put those languages, those 4 words, in 6 languages on one T-shirt.
Yeah.
So that way you can kind of spread the message. So
it's amazing. It's a great idea.
Thank you. I mean, if you're in Hong Kong, right? If you're in Hong Kong and you're dealing with the craziness happening in Hong Kong right now, Hong Kong is primarily a Cantonese speaking area. They're speaking mostly Cantonese, but there's plenty of people that speak Cantonese and also understand Mandarin, and they will get that message of humanity, freedom, equality, and survival. If you are in Palestine and you're an Arabic speaker, you got to understand those 4 words of humanity, freedom, equality, and survival. If you're in Paris or Lille or Bordeaux, France, and you got a yellow vest on and you see those 4 words, okay, that's going to make some sense to you. If you're in Bolivia or Mexico and you're on the streets fighting for your rights and you're going to see, those 4 words in Spanish, it's going to make sense. What about the people in Russia right now and there's going to be over 500,000 protesters protesting Alexei Navalny in prison, I think either today or tomorrow.
Which has been going on for 10 years? How many years have they been protesting for this guy?
A lot, but and now he's in jail. He's in jail now. Yeah.
I've been wondering when that nation would find its way to freeing itself from centuries of oppression.
Centuries of oppression.
They're the most revolutionary. They're one of them. They're pretty much like their history of revolution. I took a whole course on Russian revolutionary history. Pretty wild.
Oh yeah.
Lots of different types of revolution against different types of kind of oppression and politics. But they're way overdue. Like, I think that people all around this world are just, they should feel the like I guess it's hard in certain places, including here in some ways, to like feel like it's your right to not want to be oppressed, and to be able to expect that, stand up for it, speak for it, and I think people are traditionally pretty afraid to do that there. But whenever I see people getting arrested protesting in Russia, I'm just like amazed. I'm like, they're serious. Those are some serious. Those people are out there knowing that I just can only imagine what getting arrested as a political dissident in Russia is like. Like, do they just beat you? They probably, I doubt there's like a whole lot of, just based on their history, they tend to kind of not treat those types of people very kindly.
And speaking of not treating those kind of people very kindly, Alexei Navalny has been a massive critic of Vladimir Putin. And the reason why people are protesting in support of Alexei Navalny now is because Navalny has been on a hunger strike for the better part of, I think, 3 weeks. And his personal doctor has said that he is going to die if he doesn't get medical care. The prison that he's in is saying, oh, yeah, he's getting all the care he needs. But then an independent doctor said, no, this man's got high potassium in his blood. He can have a heart attack any minute now. He's going to die. We need to get him into some more robust medical care. So so part of the reason why I decided to switch to put other languages on those shirts and is to communicate that message of humanity, freedom, equality, and survival to more people. And a couple of other languages that I'm definitely going to look into later on. One of them is German, because there's a lot of people in Europe that speak German, especially in Germany and Austria, where those two countries, that is the national language of those two countries. I'm also going to take a look at Thai, because there's a lot of people that speak Thai, and there's a lot of people that are in Thailand right now that are fighting for humanity, freedom, equality, and survival.
It's rough over there.
Of course, the rubber duck revolution hasn't stopped. So those are later on down the road. But those 6 languages, those United Nations languages on one shirt, that's the idea. And we're going to launch soon, and hopefully people take a look at what we're doing shirt wise and understand that it's more than just me trying to sell some shirts. It's about making sure that there's a message behind those shirts.
Of course.
And you could you feel good about wearing a shirt that says humanity, freedom, equality, and survival, or you feel good about a guy standing in front of City Hall by himself, where you understand that this is a fight that has to be done either individually or collectively.
Why not advertise that, promote it, market it? This world is so much of it is putting a statement out on our shirts, our clothing, whatever. And what so many people choose to say with their t-shirts or whatever, it can be so meaningless, or it's not impactful. And it's like, what are we only have so much time here. You only got so many times somebody could check out a t-shirt and get enlightened. You might as well take hold. But
that's Branch, and thank you for saying that, because that's the point.
Yeah.
That is the point. That is exactly the point. If you're going to wear something, why not wear something that not only is sustainably made, but there's a message that you would feel proud of supporting and putting on your chest.
Well, I wanted to
and I got about a minute left.
Yeah, there was one more, just the Baltimore song, the lines, nobody got in nobody's way. So I guess you could say it was a good day, at least a little better than the day in Baltimore. Does anybody hear us pray for Michael Brown or Freddie Gray? Peace is more than just the absence of war.
Bingo.
What is the other song? There's not a whole lot of songs. There's some songs that have touched on these deaths and this what we're going through, little bits, but I mean, not necessarily as explicitly naming these people in the song. I mean, not many people have really done that, and it's awesome. And there's a prince.blacklivesmatter.com. They got that up. Hashtag Purple Rains, REIGHNS, and they got a tribute going on. And it's a good day to remember Prince. It's a good day to reflect and remember, and it's a good day to play his music loudly. Please do it if you have the means to do so. Ranch, thank you, brother. Brothers and sisters too. Exactly. Dang, we probably could have just sang a bunch of karaoke on this. Oh God, bro! One of these days when we link up and hang out and chop it up, we're doing karaoke one night. I just am waiting for somebody to bring me to karaoke. I just do it on live stream sometimes. I just get so bored. Oh, it's gonna be a mess, and we're gonna be out here like Phil Collins and Philip Bailey singing "Easy Lover." It's gonna be crazy. You gotta hold on to you, baby.
We're gonna shut the bar down, brother. Watch. Woo! We're gonna
I'm
shut
ready,
it down,
man.
brother. You already know. You already know. Karaoke. Phil Collins, Philip Bailey. It's a wrap. We're done.
Thanks for having me on today, man. It's been
Yeah,
awesome.
man.
First live
Always a
direct.
pleasure, brother. Always a pleasure, brother. Anytime you want to slice and dice, chop it up and get it in, get it on, you know what it is. You know what the deal is. You know how we do it. All right.
Check us out at Real Fear and Loving as well.
Oh, yeah. Whoa. Speaking of which, we can put your socials up. Check that out. There it is right there.
Boom.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitch TV, and YouTube, Real Fear and Loving. On IG at Rancho Guerra. There it is. So look, if you want to see what I'm doing,
We're just
you already
thinking.
know what it is. Facebook, IG, Twitter, YouTube, Joe Nice DJ. All right.
Miss you, dude.
Miss you too, brother. And look, Joe and Cat Chats. We're doing them every day. Not every day, every week.
We're taking over.
When I
Facebook's got to they got to limit us. It's getting too.
Man, look, I need my own platform. But actually, wait a minute.
JNN.
JNN. The JNN. All right, Ranch. I got to get going, brother. I got to slice and dice. All right.
Big ups. Big love.
Love and you, brother. Take care, man.
See ya.
Peace. Word.